Hello, everyone. Jeff Keach here with MySmartPodcast, our very first episode, and we're welcoming Edgar Rodriguez with Action Coach. Very pleased, very pleased to have you, Edgar. First, let me say, MySmart Pools. This podcast is really meant to introduce you to my sphere of influence and really help share a little bit about the ways that I do business as well. But first, I'm excited to learn about you, your business, and how are you thriving in the community? So, welcome. Let me ask you this first question. Tell us about your business and how long have you been engaged with it?
Jeff, first of all, thanks for allowing me to be on the podcast as a guest. For me, with Action Coach and just business in general, I feel like I've been doing it a long time and learned a lot of the skills and traits from, evolving when I was a young Marine, right? Back in my late teens, early 20s. And for me, it's just something that I've always felt, from service to country to service to community and continuing to help local business owners learn things that can help them become more successful. So for me, it's just the journey that business has taken me in, and now being able to, reciprocate that and give that back to our local community here has been very rewarding.
Right on. Hey, what would you say is often misunderstood about what you do, your industry?
That's a great question. And I feel the most misunderstood thing about business coaching in general is that when we survey a lot of our clients, they don't like to admit that they have a coach. And that's an interesting statistic to us, because if you think about it to sports, right? If you want to relate coaching to sports, which is where most of us understand coaching from, right? And you take, kids, who teaches the kid to play the sport? And in my finding, it's usually us as the parents, but then the kids get really good at that sport, which is beyond our capability. And at that point in time, now you have someone who really understands that sport to take your kid to get better at it, right? Sharpen their skills. Fast forward to them getting into collegiate sports and into professional sports. At that point, you're looking for better coaches to teach them how to play the sport. You take a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant, athletes that have made names for themselves. For me, it's learning that they hired additional coaches and taught them how to become from good to great, right? So for me, a misconception is, in business, if you want to go from good to great, who should you hire?
Yeah. And you said most people don't like to admit that they have business coaches.
Yeah, interesting statistic, right? You would feel that the most successful people do have coaches, right? In our cases, is they don't want to talk about that side of it, which is interesting, right? So if you think back, that's why I relate it to sports, right? In sports, people embrace coaching. In business, they want to feel like they did it on their own. But if you think about the truly successful, billionaires out there, they have mentors, they have coaches, they have people who have been or done what they've done, and they're trying to replicate. How do we continue to grow?
Yeah, it really does. So it really does speak to us that there's a lot more than just business strategy and mechanics and certain routines and habits. It does have to do with ego, vulnerability, letting things in, appreciating, the team and everything. And the goal of the My Smart podcast show here is to educate and inspire other entrepreneurs and community leaders in talking about high level hurdles and high level challenges and their solutions and absolute order to create those high level relationships. And with that being said, what makes you feel inspired?
For me, great question. I think what makes me feel inspired the most, Jeff, is the gratitude in waking up every day, and knowing, who am I going to run into today? Who am I going to make an impact with, right? Like, for us in coaching, it's the breakthroughs we have in giving people time back. once you create a replicatable system in learning, hey, how do I not just work in my business, but how do I start working on my business in learning to relinquish control? So for me, what makes me feel inspired is my story is not done. The work that I'm doing is still continuing to evolve with the breath that I take every single day.
Right on, right on. I'm asking a couple of questions here back to back that I've been thinking about for a while, because we often, you and I have known each other for a while now. We often talk about all kinds of different business models and the way things work. And when you think about small startup business all the way to very successful, maybe even long-term running business, what's the biggest mistake first time or young entrepreneurs make?
Mm. That's a tough question, but I feel especially early on, right? You talk about starting a business. We wear multiple hats. So we try to do everything on our own. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out, how can I do this? How can I get this done? So I think a big mistake that most entrepreneurs make is ego, in moving that ego to the side and asking better questions of, hey, who within my network or who within the people that I know can help me get this done quicker, right? Think about the projects that we do at home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that we know we need to get done and we know we have the capability of doing it. However, how long does that take us? Versus hiring someone who does that for a living and how fast they get it done. And all it's costing us is a little bit of money, right? One thing you can't get back is time. And we spend an entire lifetime trying to figure out how to get certain things done when we can pay someone to get that certain task done. And it saves us and gives us a lot more time back, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. I guess it's all about balancing the affordability with the comfortability. And by comfortability, I'm meaning the ability to let go and make that decision, make those commitments, make those declarations. Here comes the next one. What's the biggest mistake that you see seasoned entrepreneurs making?
I'm gonna go back to the same one as before, right? Is not asking for help, right? We get stuck in our own ways, and for us, it's versus getting stuck in our own ways. It's again just reaching out, right? And that's why people like us exist, right? That's why you have centers of influence. That's why you have a board of directors. That's why people hire mentors and coaches. Is the accountability piece, right? When you create and taste success for the first time, how do you keep that consistent and how do you evolve to the next level or next step? That's where you have to have people holding you accountable, right? Not only are you accountable to your business, you're now accountable to your team. If you're accountable to somebody above you, right, outside of your direct communication, that's where, outside of your business, right, is what I mean, in knowing that you have someone that you're being accountable to, like a board of directors. That's what's going to help you grow.
Right. Yeah. What do they say? Warren Buffett, he hires people to tell him what to do. He doesn't hire people to tell them what to do. I think that's brilliant. And, if you could turn back the clock a little bit and grab a hold of 20-year-old Edgar. I suppose 20-year-old Edgar was in the Marines. But if 20-year-old Edgar was doing exactly what you're doing right now and starting it up today, business coaching, going in those directions, what would your insight be? What would you want his greatest takeaway to be?
I would say for me, greatest takeaway early 20s is just to read more in areas that I'm not great at. So how do you sharpen skills that I know I struggle with, right? And knowing that as long as I immerse myself in keep an open mind, okay, I'm not great at it now, but this is something I'm going to work on, and be very purposeful about that, right? I think is the advice I would give myself at 20 years old is don't be scared of the unknown.
Talk about uncertainty. Don't be scared of the unknown. I mean, I'm scared of the unknown right now. What are you talking about, Edgar? To talk with that 20-year-old, but it is about having a little bit of faith and taking that Steve Harvey jump, that Steve Harvey leap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that commitment. Talking vision, thinking down the road, your industry, your business, yourself, your own trajectories, growth trajectories. What's your vision for 6 months, 2 years? Kind of the somewhat short to somewhat long-term view.
Yeah, for me, the long-term view is just continuing to evolve, right? Every day I make it a purpose to learn something new. And I've learned this even back in my wealth management days, right? Is if I can improve 1% every single day, and I do that with a purpose, in 100 days, I would have improved 100%, right? In continuing to do that. That's something I even instill in my daughters, right? If you are in school, right? In my 14-year-old, I started doing this with her when she was in elementary. She's entering high school now. Is look, do me the favor, and if you can learn one new skill every day, or even a new skill, just learn something new. By the time you're my age, you'll be light years ahead of dad. But but
Yeah,
hold her accountable, right?
I
And say,
agree.
hey, when I get home, it's, hey, what did you learn today? What was that one new thing that you learned today that you didn't know yesterday? And how are you going to apply that moving forward? Right? That is the action step, right? What is it that you learn that you're going to apply moving forward? And for me, it's just continuing to surround myself with people that are trying to empower me, right? Not I've learned how to cut relationships that weren't doing anything for me, that were holding me back. And that's a hard thing to do, right? Find people who want to empower you versus people who are holding you back. And as hard as that is, sometimes it's family.
Well, that sounds like it's an entire episode devoted to, or even a class devoted to dealing with distractions
Mm-hmm.
and really staying ultra focused on so many different moving parts. You mentioned financial planning, the financial industry. What inspired you to jump into being a business coach?
Great question. For me, in wealth management, for one, was just teaching people how money works, right? And being really good with it, and then learning, okay, now that I've got this down and they've learned this skill, how do I make a bigger impact? And I was already working with business owners. A lot of them, in my experience there, was, okay, now that we're diversified, they they wanted to learn, hey, now that I'm financially learning to leverage money, right? How do I do this towards my business? And for me, that was the light bulb, right? That hit of, I'm onto something, and I wanted to help in that aspect. So for me, I jumped into business coaching knowing, okay, if I'm already making an impact in the wealth management sector, how do I make an impact within my own ecosystem to make it a thriving economy, right? And for me, business coaching was something that just made sense. In, okay, if I'm already working with business owners and now I can learn this skill set, and not only learn it, is I felt like I've already had it in me from what I learned in the Marine Corps. It was just getting certified, right? Getting certified, getting the right documentation in place for me to say, okay, not only am I business coach certified, but I'm also executive leadership certified. So for me, it's just marrying the two in the things that I've learned through my own journey, and now empowering other people and giving them the tools they need to continue to thrive.
And I know that we talk about the value of time
Mm.
and being short, direct, sweet, to the point on our respective shows. I'd like to um, ask you to identify two things. One, your podcast. Talk about that for just a quick 10, 20 seconds here, and let everyone know where they can see you. Also, great information, talking to some very high level professionals, just like we're doing right here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's two that I run. One I run for PR Connections, and we both know Guy very well. For him, I have the Love of Business podcast, and that one we just
Mm-hmm.
highlight, local people who are on or local business owners who are on the same passion for business, right? We want to understand their story, and being able to highlight them to give them the spotlight that they're looking for. The other one I run is through Action Coach for the business spotlight series, and that one is just our way of giving back to the local community, right? Not only for people who are in business, but people making an impact in the community, business leaders, community leaders, or people in entrepreneurship, and figuring out, what challenges have they had, and how that story can resonate with someone to inspire them to take that leap.
Right. And just to give a little shout out to Guy Dawson with the
Mm-hmm.
Cause Marketing Chamber and all the things that he does. And then this may be, for me, probably the most important question that I jotted down earlier, just going over notes, something I wanted to talk with you about. Or actually, listen, you have a very philanthropic side, not only in vision, but in action.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a moment to just talk real quickly about your vision in new organization, and then just some of the things you're doing currently?
Yeah. So, and I think you're talking about the VRA, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So for me, it's in the process of formation with Veterans Rise Again, and that's something that's near and dear to my heart that I feel is my purpose in life, and that's where I want to unite. I want to unite, or not. I want to, but I'm going to unite the organizations that really want to make an impact towards veteran homelessness. This will be a conversation that I'll be on a panel on for Military Influencer Conference coming up in November. And I met with Christoph earlier today, actually, and it's something that he wants to put together for Ultimate Speaker Competition. So he wants me to either facilitate or lead the panel on veteran homelessness and be able to talk about, hey, how do we really make that impact that needs to happen? There's a lot of organizations out there that are helping veterans, but it just depends on how they're helping and being able to bridge the gap with what needs to happen for all organizations to unite to make that impact. So for me, that's something that is in the process of formation and will be something that will leave a massive impact, not only just here in Vegas, but how do you spread that out across 50 states, 50 cities, and then double that, because that is something that needs to happen across our nation.
Well, I look forward to definitely keeping in touch with you about it, helping you promote it and everything. And again, I very much appreciate you spending some time with me. What is the best way? How's the best way for people to follow you? How can they find you?
Yeah. So for me, the best form of communication is going to be LinkedIn. So you can look up my name, Edgar Rodriguez, on LinkedIn. That's going to be one of the easiest ways. The other way on Instagram is Master the Network, is my tagline on there. So either one are the two social media platforms that I use.
Great. Great. Again, my friend, thank you so much for spending some time with me here and sharing some great lesson and insight. And I look forward to seeing what else we can create together. And very best regards. And I look very much forward to speaking with you again soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
You got it. All right, sir.